gone. Go ahead, Jane.
Do we want to, somebody want to open with a prayer first, or we want to say that for Bible study?
I'll pray before my lesson.
Okay. Okay, girls. So I don't know how many may have seen it, but I sent an email out yesterday about our upcoming study for Samuel. Hopefully most of y'all are somewhat familiar with it. In a moment, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about 3 areas in that, really. And in a moment, when I get to a certain section, I'm going to ask Donna to show something on the screen that might help as we talk about a particular section of that email. Okay, but hold on just a second, Donna. I'll tell you when. Okay, I'll try to be as brief as possible. We just want to make sure everybody feels comfortable with the direction of our study, our upcoming study. So we want to talk about the importance of the study of Samuel after Judges. We want to talk about the grouping of chapters and what that means. And we want to talk about an invitation for needed lesson leaders. So those 3 areas are our focus. And the email that I sent out yesterday basically was just saying that Judges, the Judges study should be completed shortly before Easter. And Easter this year is going to be on April the 9th. Okay. There potentially could be a little gap from the completion of Judges before we start into our next lesson, but we don't want to start Samuel until after Easter. So if there's a gap, we finish Judges before Easter, Marlene to the rescue again, has got something that will fill in a week or 2, or if it's even needed at that time. So we'll focus on post-Easter and the commencement of Samuel. And the importance of studying Samuel after studying Judges is we may be through, as Marlene had said, and I think I wrote in even an earlier email, that even though we may finish the book of Judges, we're not actually finishing the study of Judges. There's a couple of more that we will study, and that's where Samuel comes in. And also many people maybe forget or don't even know, like me, the importance of Samuel. And because basically what it does is I'm starting to read it now, and it's so interesting. It really tells how the leadership transfers from judges over to kings. And that's an important evolution in the Israeli group of people and God's people. But I find it to be really fascinating and very interesting, and I'm just learning so much. Not that I'm remembering it, but I am learning it. So the study of Samuel should be a great study on many different levels. Does anybody have any questions about moving on to the study of Samuel and why it's important?
No.
Okay, we'll move to the second issue of the email then. And Donna, this is where you will show the picture of that section of yesterday's email while I talk. It'd be great.
Okay, hang on.
If you can do that, might be easier for people to see it.
Got it?
There you go. Okay, so you'll see 2 columns there, 1st and 2nd Samuel, and then you'll see numbers underneath each one, and those numbers represent chapters within each respective book. Okay, and the chapters are grouped together for a reason. And here's let's discuss just briefly what that means. In past studies, like with Psalms or Women of the Bible, lesson leaders led the class through a more individualized topic, and as a result, chapter groupings or chapter segments were not needed. However, in studies like what we're currently in with Judges, or in the past like Acts, there's more of a continuing storyline through several chapters at a time. And so for the continuity of the message that is going to be delivered by the lesson leader, it's kind of good to have the same lesson leader lead that particular segment, that particular storyline. So 1 through 3, for example, under the first column of 1 Samuel, has Barbara by it. And that's because Barbara is going to lead the first 3 chapters of that book. And there's a good reason. She's the perfect person to do that. And Barbara, if you can just speak out and tell folks real briefly why that's an important segment for us to hear from you.
Okay, it's a background for something in the New Testament. And I don't know how many of you may or may not be familiar with Mary's song, the Magnificat. I'm sure many of you have heard it as an anthem in church, but it's a most beautiful prayer. It is the prayer that Mary said when she went to visit her cousin Elizabeth, who was awaiting the birth of her miraculous child. And there is a definite correlation between the Magnificat and the Song of Hannah, which is in the beginning of Samuel. And my background, as most of you know, is Catholic. So Mary is very much a part of my theology, my background, my beliefs. So it was felt that I would have a pre-knowledge somewhat of this correlation, and also that Mary means a lot to me. And I like to present her in a way. She was obviously inspired by the Holy Spirit. And so that's why I'm doing that section because of my background.
Thank you, Barbara.
Work.
Perfect. I mean, what we couldn't have a better person to do that. And I want to say in a minute, we'll talk about Marlene doing the last chapter of 2 Samuel, but these chapter segments were not arbitrarily made. They were made based on the experience of our two most experienced and knowledgeable members of this wonderful group, that being Marlene and Barbara, from their past studies within these books, as well as the breakdown correlates to a lot of the online studies. So they're not arbitrarily chosen. They are broken down into a way that will make the most sense as we try to learn the lesson of Samuel. And you'll see in the second column, 2 Samuel, you'll see Marlene down at the very end. And Marlene is going to wrap up 2 Samuel. And she's going to take a few moments here to explain why she's the perfect person for us to hear this lesson from. Marlene.
Well, I don't know if I'm the perfect person, but the reason I asked to finish the books of Samuel's is they segue into the books of Kings. And this is also when we start to see prophets. And so what I'm going to do as we finish the book of Samuel, I have a cut and paste I did. It's what, 5 pages. And back when you actually did cut and paste. But it's on the prophets that we'll start seeing in Kings and other books of the Old Testament. So I asked to do it just to give you an opening background of what lies ahead if we continue the study in the Old Testament.
Great, thanks so much. And as you see the groupings there on the 2 columns, those are the groupings that we'll be looking for leaders to hopefully sign up to lead the class through. And they should be fairly easy because it's a good storyline. Okay, it's not like it's jumping all over the place. So we just wanted to let everybody know that. And I think we're done with that slide, Donna. We could probably go back to the group unless anybody's got any questions about it. Is it clear? Everybody make sense? Okay, perfect. So lastly, we're going to talk about the need for lesson leaders. Okay. And I'm just going to start with just a little brief testimony from me as from the lessons I've led and what it's meant to me. Okay. And I wrote it out, so I'm going to read this because I know if I try to do it from memory, I'll skip something. So here we go. So teaching a lesson is the best way, in my honest opinion, to learn the Bible and discern God's word, along with praying, of course, for guidance. Yes, it takes time to prepare, but in the preparation, you're digging into details which help connect the dots of his word. And when you connect a couple of dots and you understand something for the first time, it's so exciting and it makes you want to find out more. It just makes you like, wow, this is so cool. It's not a chore. It's, to me, it's an adventure. And it's truly a blessing for, I think, the leader to learn, to prepare, and to share. As Christians, God wants us to share his word with others. And truly, again, in my honest opinion, there's not a better group of women to learn, prepare, and share a lesson with than our group of Christian sisters on this Bible study. Sisters who not only enrich a lesson with questions, discussions, testimony, and more, but sisters who also encourage the lesson leader and help her learn even more. This amazing group of women are so supportive and so encouraging. They make a novice leader feel really comfortable. The more you prepare, share, and lead a lesson, the more you grow in the knowledge of the Lord. So it's, to me, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And it is a lot of work to prepare, that's true. But if I don't look at it as work, it's just learning. It's just learning. And so it's a good thing. Anyway, that's my testimony. So back now then, with today's available tools, there's so much help you can get on the internet, so much stuff you can, read the Bible and go to the internet, whether it be commentaries or YouTubes or podcast or whatever. There's so much that can add to the enrichment of the lesson, as long as, Marlene, this is for you, you verify in the Bible, right? You have to verify that what you read online is the truth. But there's so much help, and it's not just online where there's help. We've got two of the best Bible scholars I've ever known in Marlene and Barbara, who have willingly said that they would help anybody with their sharing their knowledge, information, preparation tools, handouts. So between the internet and these two ladies, there's just a wealth of information to help you compile a great Bible lesson. So bottom line, if you're leading a lesson, you're not alone. You're not alone. And you got a great group of gals to help you along the way, to make it really a good thing to do. Now then, there's some people that may not be comfortable doing it alone. There's nothing wrong with calling up another sister and just saying, hey, you want to team up? And you could team teach, team prepare, if that makes somebody more comfortable. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. And I guess I'll just wrap up by saying, we've got a great group of Christian women in this study group, filled with so much love of the Lord and so much capability to prepare and lead a lesson. This call for lesson leaders is strictly voluntary, okay? Strictly voluntary, but it is needed. It is needed. As mentioned, Barbara and Marlene are the rocks of this class, and we all thank God for their immeasurable knowledge and their willingness to share it with us. I'll use the words that Marlene suggested I use when talking about this. She said, hey, I'm getting older. And we all know what that feels like, right? There's more, it's harder to do as many things as we did when we were younger. She's been teaching over 70 years, guys. She started teaching Sunday school when she was a teenager, early teen. Barbara too, I mean, my gosh, she's been teaching for what, around 20 or just under 20 years? And she's got so much going on in her life right now too. I mean, let me just say, they're not leaving the class, girls. They're not going to quit leading lessons, not by any means, but we've got a wealth of people here that could help and teach great lessons. And everybody's got their own style and adds their own unique piece to this, right? When they're teaching their lesson, they do it in a different way. Everybody does it in a different way. And that variety brings enrichment to the knowledge that we can gain, in my opinion. So, so think about joining and leading a lesson. And as we get into Samuel, you know, we're not going to start till after April. Pray about it. Think about all the different ways you could do it.
Jane,
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Any idea roughly how long, I mean, what months we will go into when we end it, or, you know, the time period, you know, do we have any idea?
Oh, that's so hard and almost impossible to
Yeah,
predict.
okay, that's
Kathy.
fine.
You know, a
That's fine.
start date, yes. When you look at the chapter breakout, some of them are 2 or 3 chapters, some of them are 5-ish chapters, and it kind of depends on how the discussion goes.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
think as we get into it, we'll have a more of a feel, maybe.
Okay,
So anyway, y'all can let me know if what your decisions are. You can call me, you can text me, email me, whatever. If you got questions, reach for anybody and just talk it over with them.
Marilyn,
And
Marilyn
what
has a
I'll do
question.
is I'll
Hang
keep
on,
a-
Jane, Marilyn has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't see her on my screen.
Well,
Marilyn?
I don't have a question, but I would like to do the 4 through 7 and 8 through 12.
Super. Super.
Okay,
The next, those 2.
gotcha. Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Great.
Marilyn.
Thank you.
So what I'll do is I'll add you to your name to the right of those segments like I have for the other 2. And then I'll send that out on a weekly basis, that list, so that we know what's available to choose or who's picked what, and or where we need more help because nobody's picked it. So that's really it. Does anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts, or anything?
Most of you have done a 316 that have been with us recently, and those who were with us a little longer have done a psalm. And every single one of those presentations has been fantastic. So if you can do that, you can do Samuel. In fact, it's probably easier to do Samuel because you have a continuity. And one comment on studying the Bible, way back when we started this group, I'll never forget, we all went in with the idea this is we're going to study the Bible, and those who were total novices, not familiar with anything, kind of had the idea, well, you know, okay, we're going to study the Bible. This is like a sermon every Sunday, yada yada yada. And I'll never forget, we got about halfway into Genesis, and several people made the comment and said that I had no idea that was such a wild story. I mean, you know, you read the lives of these people in the Old Testament, and my word, you know, they make me look like I've had my head under a rock all these years. So it's exciting. Okay, it's real. Their life stories are so exciting, and the beauty of that excitement is that it all relates back to God and creation and all that. So we're not dealing with, as I put it, a Charles Dickens story, which makes a good movie, but it sure takes a long read to get through it. Where the Bible is there's something new happening all the time. So I totally encourage you to take part in this. And those who did do 316s and the Psalms, I mean, nobody did a crummy job. Everybody did a beautiful job. So you're all capable of doing this. So I pray to the Lord that we have a good response, and just put your heart into it, and it'll come out right. Thank
Right.
you.
Marlene?
I just want to say that if you're worried that or concerned that maybe you can't finish your chapters, or that you might not be able to make it one day, all you have to do is let Barbara or me know, or let Jane is our contact person. Maybe let her know and she can let Barbara or me know. We can cover for you that day.
Fill in something, yeah.
That, no problem. And I want to say, I asked again for the last few chapters in Judges. And for those of you who have never read Judges, in fact, Donna, I don't know if you remember this, but you and I were talking at the somewhat, I'd say the first year of the Bible study or something. And you made a comment about people, good people in the Bible. I don't remember the exact comment. And anyway, I gave you these particular chapters from Judges to read. You were appalled. She was stunned at what she had read in those chapters in Judges. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with it, stay tuned, because you're going to find out some very interesting things. Like Barbara said, every page is a revelation.
I'm stunned at every chapter. All right, any other comments? All right, here's, Kim.
Kim,
I thought this would give me enough time to prepare. So I'll do 2 Samuel 13 through 15.
Outstanding.
all
Thank you.
right.
Thank you.
Very,
Thank you,
very
Kim.
good. Very good. The rest of you who haven't raised your hand, that's fine. Pray about it and then let Jane know. All right, what we're going to do now is I'm going to stop this recording, and then we're going to start the recording because for the lesson. All right, so hang with me.